Hi, and welcome to this episode of Life's Journey with Jen. And I'm Jen, of course. Quick question. Have you considered your ways? And what I mean by that, are you really aware, consciously aware of the way you do life, the way you do things? Because honest, we all do. We have a way, and maybe we've said to each other, well, or about ourselves, that's just the way I am. Well, that's just the way she does things. Or someone says, why do you do X, Y, Z? And you need to change. Well, you just have to accept me the way I am. Or you asking directions. Can you tell me where is the shoe department? And they may say, it's this way, it's that way. Or we're asking, how do I do XYZ? Well, you do it this way. And it made me really, it's a simple little question, but it made me really think because it can require so much deep introspection and look inside of ourselves. I mean, honestly, looking inside of ourselves, why do we do things that we do? And is it our way? For example, let's say things are going well in your life. Okay, fine. You have some kind of way of how you operate. If things are not going so well in your life, you have some type of way of how you operate. And some people may say it's a pattern, but many times it's just the way we do life. But I'm going to share with you something that really got me and catapulted me to this point this as to why should we consider our ways is much deeper than just that simple question. So we said we're going to consider our ways. I was reading of the story in the Bible when the people they were building. Well, actually, they were instructed to build the temple, build a home for the Lord. Like many of us, we're building things in our own life. Well, they went for years and years with the intention of building the temple. However, they got really busy building their own lives, building their homes, building their businesses or whatever. But things were actually prospering, but not as well as they should have. Because the Bible says they sowed but reaped little. They had clothes but still weren't warm. They had, as we would say, money, but it seemed like there was a hole in the pocket. It was burning through. And sometimes we can relate on that. It's like, I'm making money, but where's it going? I'm doing the right things, but where's the fruit? And they were asked a simple question. In fact, I should say instructed. Consider your ways. And so part of it was, yes, they were doing things, but they weren't doing what they instructed. When I take that statement and look at my own life, and I would encourage you to do the same with your own life. Let's look at it in two ways, because of course we each have things in our lives that are going well. We see fruit and it's great. But then we have things maybe not so much. But I'm going to say, have you considered your ways? Have you considered why are things going the way that they're going? That's not working out. And maybe it's because you are doing things the way that you do it. And we all have a way of doing life. And even the Bible says, commit thy way unto me. There's a way for everything. And I thought about that word way. It's simple. It's this way, it's that way. Which way are you going? Which way is up? Which way is down? Well, there's a way for everything that we want to do in life. But first of all, we have to confront one, what's our way of life? Mode of operation, even in our natural everyday life, it's just how we do things. Or maybe one of your kids have done something and the teachers may call and say, well, your child was lying. And what do we say? I know my kid. You might say, yes, he was lying because he lies at home. Or you might say, that doesn't sound like my kid because he doesn't usually do this or that. These are all the ways that we show up in life, all the ways that we do things and our ways of how we communicate, how we dress, how we look, how we think, how we speak. It's all our way. And that's not a bad thing because we're going to have a way, obviously, but are we willing to surrender our ways of operating when it's going to get us to a better way? Because many of us can desire better ways. We can desire more. But first, we have to look at what's not working and why isn't it? And again, are things not working because we're not working a different way? Now, if we were to look at things, let's just go really slow. I want to say, I'm going to focus first on the things that are not working out. We have to be honest. We have to surrender. And sometimes it does mean making a change in our own life. Sometimes it does mean making not just the change of how we're doing, because we can all say, I'm going to change, and we will try changing. But a couple things I know in my life at times when I said, "Oh, I want to try to do something different." For example, I may look at a person who I admire the way they work, they're type A, they're getting it done. And then I decide I want to do more because my natural being, my natural way of showing up in life, I can be passive. I can just be laid back and easy going. And that's fine sometimes, but that's not fine when I need to be assertive, when I need to get out there and really make things happen. My way of doing it naturally, I'm finding I'm not getting some of the results I want because I want the particular results that I know I can have and I'm capable of obtaining, but I have not changed my way. I changed the response to say, yes, I want this. And I know I have to work differently, but I can't show up the same way that I've been doing. So I've taken each part of my life, and I would encourage you, take each section of your life, your finances, your health, your relationships, your relationship with God, whatever. Take each aspect and just look at what's way am I showing up? What is the way I'm currently doing it? Is it helping me? Is it hindering me? But then take that and align it with the word of God, align it with wisdom that's available, and see is your way congruent to the way it needs to be done. And what we can't do, and I've seen it happen sometimes that, well, this is just the way I am and I'm not changing. Well, that's counterintuitive because you're saying, I want to change. I want the results over here, but I'm not going to change my ways. That's just going to be a back and forth like a ping pong or tennis game in your life. And many times we're seeing that. I'm starting, I'm going back. I'm starting, I'm going back until we're willing to change our ways. And we won't change them unless we really bring those subconscious behaviors to the conscious forefront of what's my way? How am I doing things? Is it working counterintuitive to what it is I want to do? So kind of back to the story of me wanting to achieve more and be more assertive, but still be laid back. It just didn't work. So going back to when I was starting with the story of I wanted the results of a person who, let's say, that's assertive and they're making things happen, and I agreed to do it, but still moving a little more passive, a little slower. So I had to really examine, first of all, He created us each with different dispositions and personalities. And when I messed up and I would say the greatest frustrations and the greatest just kind of beat myself up things was when I wasn't doing what I wanted the way they were doing it. Somehow we'll look at someone we admire, so we try to copy what they're doing. The problem with that, they're doing well doing life their way because that's how they were created. I can't do my life the way you're created. So I had to peel back and say, okay, do I want the results of a successful business, a successful marriage, or whatever that is? Yes, I want the results. And I can admire the way someone else does it. I can absolutely admire. I maybe can pick up some tips along the way. But then I had to make sure I'm still doing it, being true to who I am. Because when I didn't, frustration on a couple levels would occur. One, when you're trying to do something that you're not created to do a different way than you are actually created in your natural bends, there's fear, there was frustration, there was failure because obviously I was not going to have the success trying to use someone else's tools or doing it exactly the way they did it. But once I got in tune and just knowing who am I and how do I really work? Because again, God is not ever wanting us to look at someone else and copy them. What he does say to us is be imitators of Christ. He's the only one we imitate. But guess what? Even in that, we have our unique way of showing up, of doing it, and of accomplishing the same goals, but different ways. Some people were built, look, they just thrive off going 24/7 and just nonstop and going and going. I can go for a while, but I also enjoy the slow path along the way. So what I had to do was to really be true to myself, because that's what we're saying. But at the same token, again, being honest and having to change my way it did not change the core of who I am and how I do life. But it did mean, okay, Jennifer, you want a different result, you're going to have to up your game a little bit. Yes, you could natural being, just lay back and chill, but you cannot chill and propel at the same time. So I had to get that balance. As with you, I'm sure there's people in your life that you may admire on whatever type of level. And it's frustrating when you try to think, or you might say, I can't do it their way. You're not supposed to do it their way, but you do have to do it the way that you are optimally created so that you can have those best results. We can't do it our way. And I know there's songs, Frank Sinatra, I did it my way, and all of these different things, but and that's well and fine if you're getting what you want, and not just what you want, but if you're getting and accomplishing the things you were created to do, bravo, that's fine. But we also know that's not what's happening in each of our lives. And so I couldn't be stubborn. I couldn't be, well, I'm just not going to do it like this. Or the worst case scenario where the enemy would come is to say, that's just not meant for you because, you're just not like that. You're not supposed to have. That's really a cheap shot from the enemy. But when we accept that and now you had a goal of something that was really great, but instead of just you willing to change your ways or the way you do things, you shrunk the goal or just left it all aside. Just, well, that's just not meant for me. I'm just not meant to be that way. Well, I don't care. I'm not like that. If that were true, you would not be envious or jealous of someone else because we only get envious and jealous and all these types of things, these negative emotions when it's something I really want. If someone had something I don't want, trust me, I'm not paying it any attention. It's only tempted to be envious, jealous, or any of those type of negative emotions is if it's something you want. So I'm going to slow this down and ask again, have you considered your ways? That's number one. And then I'm going to say, two, consider your ways. Whatever's not working or not working as well as you like. Or and then sometimes it's thing you may think you're doing fine, but people who you may respect have said to you, you should do this or you should consider that, but you put your line in, you just drew your line in the sand. Again, this is just the way I am. This is how they have to take me or leave me. Any takers? Or you want a promotion, but you want to still do it the way you want to do it. And speaking of promotions, I think so much is happening where we're at a place in life, there's so much transition. That's good. There's some promotions, there's different things people are moving about. But think about it. Even if you get a promotion for a job that you applied for, or you get, well, I'm going to hold on right there. You get the promotion and everything. And yes, where you were doing things the way you were got you noticed, it got you promoted. But guess what? That next level, some things are going to have to change. You won't be able to do everything the same way that you've done it. The core of who you are, and I'm going to assume that you were disciplined, you were timely, there were things in your character that got you there. You produced somewhere that you got promoted. And then let's say that promotion was honestly, you got it. But now keep those same discipline and those same integrity and those type of core characters, but the way you do things is going to change. For example, I found, let's say you got promoted within the same company, because sometimes that can be a challenge. So the people who you were in the lunchroom or wherever, the people that you hung out when you were all working together, that was fine. But some of those same people might have an issue now that you're promoted, and especially if you are their boss. And sometimes it's not always out of malice or anything ill intent. It's just they were comfortable with you. And you trying to still be comfortable and hang out with them is hindering you. And now you have to go to maybe higher level meetings, or you have to think not just, well, because when we're the workers, the employees, we think one way. When you're the employer or the boss, you're thinking it's a different way. In fact, it better be a different way because you are required to move differently. Your core person stays the same, integrity and trustworthy, those types of things. But how you doing it can't be the same. It could be some of you, even in life right now, are not seeing the true change that you need. You want it. You may have the work ethics, but you're not willing to give up sometimes the location. What if it requires you to move somewhere differently, away from people you know? That's what God did with us. We moved away from what was comfortable, people we loved, to 3,000 miles away. But we knew that was what we needed to do to grow and to go to the next process and to be obedient. Are you willing to move? Are you willing to change? And move could be a physical location. Move could be, are you willing to change your thought patterns? Are you willing to change your ways? But I'm going to say to you, if you're not willing to change your ways, if you're not willing to do something different, basically, I know some people say, then you really don't want it. I'm not going to say you really don't want it, because I'm going to say you do want it, but you want it the way you want it. And life doesn't give us that all the time. God doesn't give us like, yeah, I know you want it and I want you to have it, but guess what? There's a different requirement. It's like, for example, if you were headed somewhere, let's say you were in a department store and you ask, oh, which way is the shoe department? And then the salesperson tells you exactly the way. They tell you to head out, turn left, but you decide, no, I want to go right. Well, You want to do it your way. You really want the shoes, but you want to do it your way. Guess what? You're not going to get to the shoe department doing it your way. Sometimes we do have to surrender. There's a saying, what is it? Respect the process, submit to the process, surrender to God. These are sayings, but they're so true because it's things we honestly have to do. But that requires when to the statement, consider your ways, requires something many of us are not willing to give up or even know how to do. And sometimes that means getting somewhere, being quiet, being silent, and just thinking, hearing ourselves think, truly examining, how do I do things? What is my way? And like I may say, look, for example, your friends may say, you always do it this way. You're always like that. And sometimes people say those statements always, but when it's people who know us, we might have to give a little bit of attention to when people say, you always just get so upset so fast. And the minute they say it, you just like, no, I don't. Well, you got upset just off of that statement. Or you always say you're going to do something. You started, but you stop. No, I don't. Well, sometimes it does require no, not sometimes. It absolutely requires solitude, being quiet, and just honestly looking at how do I do things. And especially if those of us that, if you're even 25 years old, in your 20s, you have a pattern in a way. There's some things you see in your life already. And I would say the younger you see things, particularly if it's leading you different than what you want to do. For example, you're young, you're working, maybe you're in college or high school, you have a goal to go to college or to achieve college, whatever those goals are. But then you keep hanging out with people who, some ways, there was a saying, birds of a feather flock together. Well, you're hanging out with people who don't have the same goals as you. So you start out, but then you're pulled back. Maybe your goal is I want to grow spiritually and have a deeper relationship with God. But then you hang with everyone who's just so carnal. You cannot grow in those environments. You get a certain level, and I'm not saying cut people off. Sometimes, yeah, that's absolutely necessary. But other times you just can't give them as much space in your life. So you have to do something a different way. Consider your way, and that takes some deep, deep soul searching and be willing to change. Okay, you want to be healthier, but you also want to keep eating junk. You want to stay up late. You want to stroll all night and wonder why your eyes and head hurt and all these different things, wondering why you're not getting further in life. And it's so easy to use a default because it's just readily everyone says, I just need more time. I don't have enough time. I'm too busy. But are we really? If we really consider our ways, I would say most of us, well, first of all, let's be honest. We all have 24 hours in a day, but most of us have more time to do the things that we say we want to do than we realize. But our way of doing life, the strolling, the just mindless eating, the mindless drifting, the just whatever, lollygagging, or moving too slow, or being too busy in other people's affairs, or just procrastination, whatever it is, that's what I'm asking you to do. That's what God asks of people. Consider your ways. I want to be fair because you know what? That life can really press us. And I've been there where you want to do things, you're ready. Maybe in some level you've considered your ways. But I mean, there are real challenges in life. I mean, it could be financial challenges, it could be health challenges, relationship challenges, so many different things that can press. And I know sometimes there are people like, I want to, but I just honestly feel like I can't. Well, the first thing I'm going to say to you, that's a feeling. Feeling like you can't is one thing, but believing that you can't is another thing. So I'm always the type of person, let's just be honest with them. What is our circumstance? Let's say, for example, you're a person and, well, let's just say finances. Maybe you want to go to school or you want to take a course. You want to do something to improve your life, but it requires money and you honestly don't have the money. Well, there's different ways of approaching that. First, I'm going to always start off with prayer. I will never accept it's impossible because the minute you say you can't or something is impossible, you yourself has shut it down. And that's a principle whether you are a believer in the word of God or not. You just shut it down. So first we have to deal with the belief that there's a way. It may not be as quick as someone who says, hey, I want to take a class, and your friend shows up and say, let's take this $300 course. And she or he has the 300, but you barely have 300 pennies. And that's a true reality for you in that moment. So now I'm going to start with prayer. Then we're going to look at things like I would recommend before saying you not think about what can I do? Because you know what? Here's the thing. No matter what we say we can't do, somebody else worse than what we were did it. I don't care. If we say, well, I can't walk, my health is so bad, there's stories of people with no arms and no legs, but they're crushing it in life. There's people who, okay, I have no money, but they're finding a way. So I'm not minimizing what you're saying. I'm just saying, first of all, let's get rid of the belief in the statement, I just can't. Now, I'm not going to say it's easy. It may be hard, but you know what? We were all designed and equipped to do hard things. And most things that we want in life may be hard. It may be easier for someone else, but hard doesn't mean impossible. Hard just means hard. So I'm going to say, okay, ask yourself, because our brains are funny. Our brains are wired to believe whatever we say and give us a sense of direction or a sense of suggestions based off what we said. So instead of saying, I can't do it, because guess what? Your brain and everything else is going to start giving you all the reasons why you can't. But if you said, you might say, okay, is this a challenge for me to do this? What can I do to get this done? And it might mean you may have to do it a little bit later. It might mean you can't step like me. I didn't want to have debt when I went to college. So my parents helped me, yes, and family helped me for a while until I just wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. Then I almost did it myself, but thank God still for help. But I never had financial aid. However, it meant I had to take one class per semester for a long time. I got enough money, pay for that one class, pay for that one class. I think sometimes our real frustration comes in is not so much that I can't do it, but I can't do it as fast as somebody else did it, or I can't do it as easy as they did it, or I can't do it the way they did it. That was their way. If it's something you really want to do, because one thing I know about our human resolve, we generally find a way to do things that we want to do. And we make excuses for things we don't want to do. Let's say time is a factor. You're busy with life. And I mean, legitimate, real responsibilities, not fake things you just made yourself busy, but I mean, really things you have a lot of responsibilities. Well, then what that means, you have to carve away some time. Maybe you have to get up a few minutes earlier. Someone else may have an hour to exercise. You might only have 10 minutes, but do you know if you did 10 minutes 3 times a day, that was 30 minutes. If you just squeezed in 10 minutes, you may have to, while you sitting at your desk doing work, you're doing some type of exercise. There's so many exercises you can do now, if you look online, that you can do while sitting. Exercise you can do while cooking, exercises you can do while doing. What I'm learning how to do is stack different things in my life so that while I'm doing this, I can also be doing that. If I'm sitting at my desk, I could be lifting my legs. I could be moving my arms. If I'm watching TV, I could be doing something instead of just sitting watching the TV. Maybe I'm folding clothes. Whatever it is, the point is, when we're really serious about something, that's why I'm saying consider our ways. Because we go back and we're really honest. And even to be honest, I'm going to say, sometimes you need to get someone that knows you well, because you know what? We truthfully can have blinders in our lives. We really can be blind to things that's going on. But people who know you well, your spouse, your kids, your best friend, or whomever, and by all means, you can pray and ask God, because He knows us the best. He created us. But when you let someone say to you, and you're asking, do you think I'm wasting time? Or you say to them, I just think I don't have enough time. What do you think? Now, again, this is someone that you value and someone that knows you. They might say, well, when I watch, you do have a tendency to stroll a lot on Instagram, or you do have a tendency to talk on the phone, or you have a tendency to procrastinate, or you're just not organized. Sometimes just simply not being organized. I did a podcast on clean spaces and clean places. Just being organized gets us time back. So this is when I'm saying, consider your ways, particularly in those places where you say, I can't do it. I just can't. It's too hard. I don't have enough time. Do we really not have enough time? Especially when I've already said, and we know there are people who have less than we have and pushed and pressed, not minimizing our lives, but if one person, and we know multiple people have done it, then surely we can do it. But it's easy to say, I just can't. And then we shut down and do nothing. So we have to find out the question, how can I do it? But before we jump into the how, it's going to go back to consider our ways. And I was thinking about, I mentioned Frank Sinatra having a song, I did it my way, but I was just thinking, Michael Jackson had the one, I'm looking at the man in the mirror and I'm asking him to change his ways. It was like, if you want to make the world a better place, let's just start with you. That song is a song, but it's true. Have you looked at yourself? Because to consider your ways, you're honestly looking at yourself. And just saying, before you say it's somebody else, before you say it was life circumstances and everything else, sometimes it means you have to prioritize what you want to do. That was an issue with me. I could prioritize somebody else's business and mine took the back burner. I had to consider, how was I doing things? How was I approaching life? And it's easy to just, this is just the way I am. You know what? It was the way I was. And we said, and like, well, I was born this way. And I was born, and people say I was born this way on so many different things. We were given a certain nature. Like I said, God gave us different personalities, and it's so that we can all work together. Everyone can't be the same. That's the beauty of us being different. But some things, what has happened, it's not that we were born a certain way. Because no, let me backtrack. You might have been born a certain way. Maybe I was born to be this way. I was born like this. I'm just, my family, we're this way or that way, but you were not created. You and I are created in the image of light of God. There's a difference in how I was born and how I was created. And so what I have to work towards, the higher goal in life and the higher purpose and the higher level, if you want to say, is when I'm working out of, how was I created? What was I created to be? How was I really created? So that's when I'm gonna have to look at God. What did God say about me? What's really, I can't look at what people in my family do. That just shows how I was born into a family that usually does things this way or do things that way. Or, well, in our family, we always do it this way. Or our family, we all, these different things, or our culture always does it this way. We have picked up different identities and different things, obviously, along the way, from our family, from our friends, from just life, the people we watch, the shows, which all of this helps shape us to become a certain way. But that doesn't mean that's how we were designed to be. And so that when we're taking that time to get quiet and really consider our ways, I did it this way. And I would say, if I were to give you a step for doing it, I would say, do it this way, or this is how I do it. And maybe to help you. Again, being quiet, looking at the areas where you feel you're not getting the fruit you want, looking at, and it could be statements, I don't have enough time, my health is bad, I'm sick, or whatever, I just have too many demands. Look at that. List how you do it, how you normally do things, but then look at, what does God say I should do about this? For example, we can have a crowded life, and also God, our friends, wisdom, but we can have our plates or so forth. I went through this phase of the last, I'm going to say maybe even 9 months, of my friends saying, it's too much on your plate. You got so much on your plate. Well, I could get rid of some of the things that I could, but I realized it was still a lot. And then I got rid of things I thought you thinking, well, everything left is stuff I have to do. I'm not going to get rid of family and kids, and I'm not going to get rid of people in my life. So, but you know what I had to do? My plate was fine, but I had to do it differently. Meaning at times, sometimes in my case, because I could stay up super late. I could stay up 2, 3 in the morning and then wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning. That was not good for me. So I had to consider my ways. Jennifer, you have to make yourself get into bed earlier, even if you just lay there. Then I had to, when I got up, I had to have my things ready so I could start my day. There were different things I had to do in considering my ways to kind of change so I can get what I want. I did take things, once I got everything off the plate, then I had to prioritize what's important at what time. That's what I had to get a schedule, and I had to get a routine. And these are all different things we do to bring order to our lives. Because again, sometimes that lack of time is, if we're doing too much, we're not prioritizing what needs to be done. We're not doing it when it should be done. And then sometimes it's just, I don't know how to do it properly. I know what I want to do, but I have no order. It's just chaos. So I had to bring some things into balance. Find out what it is that you need to change. You're doing certain things and maybe you're doing everything right, but are you still supposed to be doing those same things? Because what you were doing last year or 5 years ago may have been great and you might see a lot of fruit, but are you open to transition? Are you open to time that you need to change doing something? Because, some people, what's the saying? If it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, there's some truth, and I've said it myself, but then I thought about that. A typewriter, some of you may not even know what a typewriter is, but a typewriter, you may have one or can get one, and guess what? It's probably still going to work. As long as you have the ribbon and attachment, you can still type and do what you need to do, but it's not efficient. Are you holding on to things in life that are no longer efficient for you? Maybe they're still getting things done, but could it be a different way for you to do it? Are you holding on to dead things that, well, I just like it, but it's time to change? Are we willing to surrender some things so we can get some other things in place? And that means the way I've been doing life, the way I've been showing up. I'm constantly going off and getting mad at people, getting angry so fast. Well, sometimes it gets you what you want, and not because people wanted to readily give it to you. They just want you to get out of their face. And you walk away feeling accomplished. I got what I wanted. But the carnage that you created, the stress you put yourself through, the anger and that level of distress you're constantly, it's going to come back and you're going to have to pay for it at some point. You cannot live a life that's amped up all the time. There's too many stressors. It's too many problems. It can cause so many other issues. And that's many times doctors will say, well, what do you do? What's your stress level? Or people, I'm under stress. Well, why is that? Because it's your way of doing things. And so I'm saying, consider your ways on everything about your life, particularly where you want to change, and particularly even be open to God trying to talk to you about a different way of doing things. Maybe it's good as getting you some results, but if you're willing to change, you could get better results. You can get more results. And then sometimes the things that we're so busy trying to get a result over here, but we're crushing it and killing it over there, it's just not working because God is going to show us how to do the things. There's so much wisdom out there to show us how to do things the way that it will bear fruit and not tearing us up on the inside. So again, consider your ways, and that's going to be how you think about things, what you say about things in yourself, and then how you're going to do things. Some you find great is great. Other things you're going to have to change. And especially, I would say, even looking at priority. And I said it before, but sometimes in our own life, we just don't know we don't know what's important now. So therefore, everything is important. And you can't live a life with everything important. People who have organized lives and tend to get more accomplished, they know what's important now. My husband would always say, use the WIN principle, WIN. What's important now? And then you're focusing on that. Then you're looking at, well, how do I do it? I want it to be more efficient. Maybe you have to implement technology. That's something I'm learning. So my friends, they're helping me to gradually move into that space, and it is more efficient. I can't take the approach, well, no, I'm not going to do it. And I know there's some people, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to keep doing it this way. The problem is when you want to keep doing something a certain way, but the world, when it's really a problem when the world changes the way the business environment has changed. So much has changed that many times life will not allow you to keep doing it the way you want to do it because that system is no longer in place. But if you're determined to just stay your way, you know what? You're going to stay just your way. And it's going to be, after a while, it's just very discouraging. It's frustrating. And I know it's hard. I know some things but it's taking me out of my comfort zone. I'm uncomfortable. I'm afraid. I get all of that. But you know what? If you want something different, you have to do something different. What? And life and God will let you do it your way. You sure can. And you'll keep getting these frustrating results that you're getting. You'll keep being disappointed. You'll keep being left out, whatever. You'll keep not getting what you want. And the cheap way would be, well, I guess it just wasn't meant for me to have it. That's not true. You just weren't willing to do what it takes. You were not willing to consider your ways and change your ways. That's what really happened. And you have to do it in order to even keep up. And honestly, to get the things that you desire and the things that you were created to do. And even though, as I'm doing a lot of, because trust me, I've been doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of considering my ways, and some things I really had to make some changes on how I do things. And like I said, going to bed earlier, getting up, and those were different things. I had to change. Okay, I like dressing a certain way, but where God has taken me and where I desire to go, I have to change how I dress. I'm more comfortable. Me, t-shirts and jeans, shorts, I'm a happy camper. But in different things, in different places and where I'm going, it requires, it's just like you saying, I want to go into this really high class restaurant, for example. Well, and they have requirements that maybe you have to come dress formal or whatever, but I want to come with my t-shirts and my jeans. That may be what you want to do, but guess what? You're going to be stopped at the door, no admittance. Could it be the things you want in life are looking back at you, hands up, no admittance? What you want is not even letting you come through because you refuse to dress the part. You refuse to show up. You want to be loud and tell everybody off. Or guess what? I'm not going to make fun of people who have big personalities. Maybe you're too mousy. But that job requires you to be more assertive and more vocal. But you want to I asked them and they didn't do it. Nobody has time for that. Life would just run right on over you. So I'm saying we cannot just be doing things the way we want to. Be true to who you are. That's two different things. I'm not saying, because remember I said my frustration, I would look at people who were, wow, they were getting it done. And then I figure I'm going to run at that pace. It was crushing me because that's just not how I'm bent. So I had to learn, let me do it my way. And I'm going to say it's particularly for people, you're creator, you're starting your own business or whatever. Yes, when it's your business, it gives you a certain leeway to kind of design things to a point. But I'm going to say this, don't create something that you hate. And that means if you're looking at someone online or someone else you know that started a business and they're telling you you should work 9 to 9 and you should work 24/7 and you should do this and you should tell your friends and family that they can't come around, you got to just disappear for a while. Well, for me, the way I'm bent, that's not going to work. If I did that, that would destroy me. I might achieve and get the thing, but then dying in the process. And I don't believe at all we are supposed to be achieving anything but doing a slow death. If I'm really moving towards and you're moving towards things you desire, yes, we can get tired along the way. We can get frustrated. We can get pointed. That's just a part of the process. But there's still a certain amount of, you're doing it because there's life. You're doing it because it's feeding you. You're doing it because you can see the goal at the end. And then when you obtain the goal, there's joy, there's satisfaction. And guess what? People around you who are for you, you didn't destroy those relationships. I've seen too many people climb to that top ladder, whatever that was for them, but then look back. Okay, so now your marriage is in trouble. Your kids are just doing whatever, and you can't figure out why your kids are not responding to you when you weren't there for them. That goal, that thing became so important to you, you got tunnel vision. And so what I'm saying, build, but build the way you are. Me, I will build, but I'm going to always have time for family and friends and for just doing nothing. But guess what? That's how I'm wired. I have those days, and I actually build in times where I'm going to do nothing. But when I'm doing that, which is my rest time, I come out more energized, more focused, and I'm able to go. I'm not wired to run, just keep going 24/7. I'm not. And most of us not. Even people who do it, you're not totally wired, but I do acknowledge some can run longer and faster than others. So guess what? You know what the Bible does? And God gave us all the gift of saying, run your race. He gave us the freedom. So I don't have to run like you. I don't have to compete with you. I just have to run my race the way I was created, not the way that I have evolved, because we pick up ways along the way. No, the way I was created. And if I'm looking at how was I created, then I'm studying, okay, so I'm wired this way and I have a certain proclivity to be like this. And that's my gift. That's the way I'm supposed to be. But now I have to balance that to say, okay, now I can't obviously just rest all the time. I can't chill all the time, but I have to be true to myself to know. For example, my most optimum work times is either late at night or very early in the morning. I'm not as productive between, I'm going to say 12 and 3 or 4. I'm just being honest. Those are not my most productive hours. So even when I was in the workplace, I knew my most challenging tasks and things I got on first. I had to tackle those first because I just knew. Now I got my work done. I didn't stop working, but I tackled the toughest things, those that require more of my mental capacity and deep focus. I did those first when I was just working at my peak. And that's just being true to yourself. Otherwise, if I'm sitting copying someone else, I burned out. I got frustrated. And then I was mad because I wasn't doing it the way they did it. We're just different, and we have to embrace that difference. It's the beautiful things, but we have to know who we are, how we were created. So I'm going to wrap up and say this again. Consider your ways, how you do things. And that takes deep work. That's deep work. That's soul searching. It's not as just simple, oh, I just do it like this. Okay, well, consider your ways. Then be open to change some of your ways. Yeah, you may have to change some ways. You want something you want, got to change the ways. Be open to that. Have someone that you can trust, that you maybe share. And you may say, I don't have anybody I trust. Well, you know what? You can trust God. He created you and he knows why. Ask him. But could consider your ways, be open to change and to surrender. And then, but before you do all that, forgive yourself. Because you may start looking, when you're honest, you can see, well, you know what? I don't show up my best self, or I do complain a lot. I am always late for work, or and if I'm late, well, what are your ways that's making you late? You don't prepare. Find out whatever that negative result that you're seeing, find out what is it about you that's caused you to consistently get there. And I promise you, there's a way of doing something that you need to change. Either you have to stop doing it, start doing it, do it more often, but there's a way about you that needs to change. So now you're picking up, because people who are successful have a way of doing things. People who are unsuccessful have a way of doing things. So now be open to it. But again, like I said, give yourself grace. Forgive yourself. Ask God to forgive you. Forgive yourself, but be open and honest and be readily to receive the honest feedback someone and allow them to give you the honest feedback. Be honest with yourself. That means you can't justify, because that's our first defense, especially if we feel we're backed in the corner. Well, this is because, no, be willing to put the whole, don't get offended, put the defense, put your guard down, and just be, sometimes it hits, sometimes it hurt. There was things about myself, it hurt and it hit, but I had to acknowledge. But guess what? Initially, somebody, no, I just do this because, but this really, and I had the excuses too. But then I realized I really want something different. So I have to get rid of the excuses. I can't have the victory and hold on to excuses. I can't have the victory and justify why I do what I do. Yes, there may be reasons why we do X, Y, Z, but that doesn't mean that has to become the way. That's just why. Okay, I acknowledge this happened to me, and maybe it causes me to be a little more suspicious, a little more cautious, a little more. That may be, and it's a legitimate thing. However, if that being that way is hindering me, I have to be willing to let go of the way and trust God to protect me and develop other ways of, okay, I'm going to be still. I'm not just going to be wide open book. I'm still going to be guarded as to what I share or who I'm with. That's wisdom. So I'm not saying throw wisdom out the window, but I'm saying we have to approach things a different way and be open to it. Self-examination. And let every man consider his ways. And that's when the people, back as I was sharing in the story of Haggai, when they were wondering what is going on, we're doing things, but we're not satisfied. Well, consider your ways. In their case, they had made a promise. They were going to build a temple. They had every intention of doing it. They really did. But their own life and their own way took precedence. Their priorities were out. And so you can't prosper and you're not doing the things you're supposed to do. You'll prosper a little bit. Because in all work, there's profit. So you're going to get, if you're working, yeah, you're going to see some results where you're really seeing what you want. It's your way. I start losing weight and I start exercising, but along the way, I usually stop about week 3. Well, what causes you to run out of steam in week 3? Because there's a pattern, you see it. And sometimes, well, it's the way, because I did this, I noticed this about me. To that own self be true. Be open to allowing God and others speak into your life and show you. Even looking in the mirror at yourself and being honest. No justification, no excuses, no nothing. Just pure honesty. And deal with that so that you can emerge your true self, still the core to who you are, the lead, and not the one that you have become or evolved. Now you can take off the layers of the hurt or the way your family does things or the way your culture or whatever, the way your religion or whatever. If it's not beneficial, if it's not in line with the word of God, if it's not in line to your true self, it's just the way you picked up. Well, just like I can put on this shirt, I can take off that way and put on the right way so that when you are trying to seek direction, Lord, which way is it to this? Which way is it to success? Which way is it to a healthier life? Now, when you get the instruction, I also did a podcast on follow instruction. When you get the instruction, you will follow the instruction. You will follow direction. You will become and take off what you need to take off, put on what you need to put on, and go in that way so that you receive the results of whatever it is that you're doing. Become who you really created to be. Experience the peace, the joy, the satisfaction in life, the fulfillment in life that's only going to come when you are walking in the way that you were created. So I pray that you go out, discover the way, walk in the truth of that way, and celebrate your life. And others will definitely, this world will benefit when you are walking in that way.